Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll be going through the Saturday games with AFL Fantasy and SuperCoach in mind, going through the players that I thought had a really good game as well as those that probably didn't have the greatest game. But anyway, before we jump into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's jump into this video. So, Wanganeen Malira, if you actually look at the stats on the surface level, 32 touches, 6 marks, 4 tackles and a goal. It looked like he had a really good game, but he started off absolutely shockingly. I think he had 3 or 4 clangers, and half of them might have come out from, in the first quarter, half of them might have come from straight from the kick-ins. That's how bad he was. And I think he had just something like 50 or maybe even 60 fantasy points, maybe even upwards of like 70 at halftime. And he was on, I think, 36 from, I want to say it was like 19 touches or so. So in the second half, he really did come back into the game, and he kicked a goal, and I think he was really efficient in the second half to sort of save his game. To be honest with you, it's him and the likes of Dane Zorko who did that were very, very inefficient in the first half. He was on 19 touches in the first half at 54% in the first and 50% in the second. So that would be only 10 effective touches out of 19, as well as having, 4 turnovers in the first and then 0 in the second. So in the end, he had, I think it might have been 0. So outside of the first quarter, he had 0 turnovers for the game and still had 7 clangers, which, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them came in the first quarter, but still had an all right game outside of that first quarter. That first quarter was horrific. I don't know what exactly he was on at quarter time, 34 fantasy points, but I think he was on 11 or 10 SuperCoach, so he really did come back strong late. Brad Hill, decent game, not going to repeat it. Rowan Marshall, we talked about this in the live stream on Wednesday night on SuperCoach, that Rowan Marshall is a guy that could potentially be relevant in the future, given that he's probably going to bottom out around 450, 460k if we go to Marshall here. Let's go to Marshall. Rowan Marshall, he is priced at 460k with a 155 break. Even if we put the 31.33 that he's just scored against Brisbane in, and get you a rough indication of what he's going to sit at. He's going to sit at 451k, but is going to have a break even of probably about 70 or so. So maybe this is the time to get that upgrade. Obviously, I won't be doing it, because if you didn't go Matt Flynn, this is the upgrade that you probably do next week, I'd say. He's got Fremantle, who Max Gawn absolutely towed up. Then he's got Carlton, who Cherry absolutely towed up. Then he's got West Coast. So that is a kind 3-week run where he could go 130, 130, 130. And if we do that, and we're just going to take this as it is here, let's just go like that. He could be back. He could gain 100k in the next 3 weeks suddenly and just be ultra value. That's how I could easily see it for Rowan Marshall. He had 50 points in the first quarter or 60 points in the first quarter and in SuperCoach, so I think he could even go bigger than 133. McRae had a horrific game, 26 touches, 5 marks, 3 tackles, 0 goals, 1, so he didn't. And then 9 contest possessions, 8 clearances. He just wasn't damaging by foot, to be honest with you. Sinclair, much the same, 29 touches, 5 marks, 1 tackle, 1 free kick for, 1 against, 7 contest possessions, 1 clanger, 1 clearance, 6 clangers there at 82%. And then you have Jack Steele, who many were saying he had a really poor game, but if you look at the stats, it wasn't the worst game from him. 79% disposal efficiency, but 19 contested possessions, easily the most for the Saints overall. And so, yeah, it wasn't the worst game from the likes of Jack Steele if you actually look at it. But maybe let me actually just check on afl.com.au just to see the rating, just to back up that, because the actual underlying numbers don't look the worst, for the likes of Jack Steele, but I'll just double check that. Jack Steele, second best rated player on the ground, 4 turnovers, 5 clangers from 29 touches isn't the worst, and 6 tackles as well. So he did his job. Windhager, a shocking game by foot. Wilkie had an alright game, but not really relevant. Max Hall, that's annoying that his cash gen's probably going to be there for the next couple of weeks as well. Let's just check Hall in terms of his cash generation. Max Hall here. had a 38 break even and went 82. So that's going to be a good solid chunk of cash generation you would expect. He goes up to 270k now. And has got a break even of probably 36 or 40 again. A slightly annoying thing that he's done that, but he made a lot of cash in the short term as well. And then no one else here really relevant at all for them. Hugo Garcia got pulled early, and he could be even unders again. That's how if he might get a game or two in the VFL. And if we just look at that, he scored a 21, which puts him at 396 through 7 games. 396 through 7 games, and that is an average of like 56 or something like that. 396 divided by 7, 56. And if we look at his career stats for SuperCoach, that actually puts him only 11 points better than what he was at the start of the year in terms of his points per game. So, if he doesn't get back, I mean, he will get back into the AFL side, but if he doesn't get back, then that'll be a decent look next year. Then we go over to Brisbane. Lachie Neale had an outstanding game, 31 touches, 6 marks, 4 tackles, 3 goals. That was a huge outlook game. Best on ground, I believe. I don't know who got the medal in this one. Dane Zorko, 124, 104, 34 touches for him, 9 marks, 2 tackles, 1 free kick for, 2 against, and 8 clangers. A little bit annoying. He had a really bad first half, but then just started going and just hitting everything in the second half. I want to say he ended up with maybe about a 90% disposal efficiency in the second half there. He had 6 touches in the third quarter at 100% and 8 touches in the fourth quarter at 88%. So that means he had 14 touches, 13 of them being effective. Still had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. So still ended up getting the turnovers there, but still one of the better second halves from him, and definitely saved it after having a really, really poor first half where he was just giving everything away, a lot of clangers and everything. But he looked back to his best in that role, and if he turns that, if he just takes away 3 or 4 clangers there, that 124 turns into about a 120, 125, and suddenly you're laughing at him because he'd be top of the line, I feel like. Zach Bailey, Hugh McCluggage even threw a tag, did well. Josh Dunkley is going to be a guy that I think a lot of us will look at and target next week. Wilmer, Ashcroft, McInerney, etc. And then we go down. Levi saved his score a little bit. We were talking at halftime. He was on 27 and 18, I want to say, at halftime, split-wise. So, or 27 and 17. So, ended up with a base 38-point fantasy second half and a 51-point second half in SuperCoach. If he could have slotted the 2 behinds that he missed, that probably turns into a 75-90 split, I would say. So he's still going to be fine in the long run, I feel like, as a rookie. But then again, also fantasy-wise, he might be almost starting to lose cash. So you might want to almost just think about dropping him. But I think there's other guys in the next week you want to drop before him. And then that's pretty much it. Kai Lohman, I think Didac put a good post up on X about this. He's just a guy to watch. He's been subbed out in all of his games so far. He's had 3 injuries, so he is just dropping in price dramatically. I think he's priced, if we go to DFS and I'll look at his price point quickly here, you'll see that he is going to drop dramatically. I think also in SuperCoach, not as relevant, but if he could somehow in SuperCoach get to the, I don't know what it would be exactly, how many games you have to be to count that, to count for that year. But if we look at Kai Lohman here and we put a 23 in here, he goes down 69k to 420k. And then if he goes and scores, say, a 50 here or something, he still goes down a little bit more. So he's most likely going to end up somewhere in that sort of, somewhere in that range of 380k or so. And you might get him 380k with a break even of some in the 20 or 30 range if he just goes average. But if he does pingo a big score when he comes back, you would expect, because he's got an injury or something, then he could be a guy that you just look at who's a little bit more expensive, but will have good job security and also has the potential just to go nuts in games. So that's, just a guy to look at. Then we go to the next game, Port Adelaide versus North Melbourne. And this was another interesting game. North actually put up a fight, but in the end, it was some of their older guys, which probably in a way let them down a little bit. But anyway, Zach Butters, 126, 162 splits. He had 27 touches, 1 mark, 13 tackles. He was absolutely huge, and I believe best on ground in this game. Then you had Connor Rozee still burning the SuperCoach traders. 27 touches, 7 marks from halfback, and a goal. 5 clangers, but his clangers don't get discounted as much, it feels like. And also just because he's off halfback, there's a lot more disposals that are just deemed effective. His ball use as well, 27 touches for 721 meters gained is ridiculous. That's like, what, 28, 27 meters per disposal, something like that. Probably, yeah, no, more like 26, 27, I think. Georgiades, 2 goals, 2 from 17 touches, 10 marks, big but not relevant. Powell Pepper still returning for those SuperCoach holders, a guy that I just blatantly missed, and a guy that I really need to look at next year in terms of looking at guys that had really bad years that are really underpriced. I really need to look at those type of guys. Maybe the injury guys, but also just everything, because those guys like Powell Pepper, who's 27 years old, he's got the job security, and we just knew that if he would, that he'd gain in price. Those guys are a lot better than trying to hope for a non-sub game out of a rookie or something like that. I just genuinely believe. So that's something I need to look at next year and better prepare for. Wines, Drew, Horn Francis really took the game open in the first quarter, had something like 8 contest possessions, 4 clearances in the first quarter. I'll actually just double check that quickly here for you guys. But he was on something like a 12-40 split in SuperCoach, from Fantasy to SuperCoach in the first little bit of the game. And yeah, he just dominated. 22 points in the first quarter, 8 disposals, 6 contested possessions. And then also in that 6 contested possessions, he had 3 clearances, 1 goal assist. 3 score involvements, 1 goal assist, 3 clearances, one of them being a center clearance. So that was just at, what was his efficiency? His efficiency, 75% in that first quarter. So it just shows how effective he was in that first quarter with 0 turnovers, and don't know if he had a clanger in the first quarter as well. So that's why he was so high. And then he came back down to earth a little bit, but still 27 touches and a goal is an absolute monster game for Horn Francis. And then basically no one else matters from the likes of Port Adelaide. Moreira's 55 points. I guess 49-55. Glad if you it probably was sort of a nothing game. So for those that held, you get a guy that's probably going to get more and more games and have the opportunity to go up in cash if he can put 55, 60 on the board for the next 3-4 weeks. But for those that traded him out, if you can get quick cash generation, then you're going to be laughing at people that held Moreira's, because rookies will come. We've got Paddy Snell had a really good game just in the VFL just then. You've got Buzzlinger who played. Henry Huswaite in for SuperCoach terms is a guy that could pop up, as well as you've got Oscar McDonald if he holds his spot somehow. Doesn't look likely. As well as, I mean, Tunstall's probably destroyed his break even now after a sub game, but you've got plenty of guys there that should potentially play, as well as North Melbourne could potentially debut a guy or two. Geordie Payne, I think, or some other guys could come back into the fold. North Melbourne, Cherry had a really, really good game. The problem is it was not impactful at all to them winning, and he got one of the luckiest free kicks I've ever seen into a 50 and goal from a shocking umpire decision that they have the replay of that shows it was a shocking decision. Is what it is. Told you that Tristan Cherry would be a guy to potentially target, and I'm looking at, hopefully, for the sake of things, if we just go to Cherry here, that's not going to work. If we go to Cherry here and go to his break even was 102 and scored a 158. If we go here, I think he'll score well against Essendon. If I go 120 in these games and then upgrade this to a 158 and then upgrade this to like a 140, not a 240, a 140, and then we go here, I think he could, wow, he's going to balloon in price just because of these 1 or 2 games here that he's got. That's going to be hard to get to him. I thought that Flynn would get to him, but I don't know if he will. I think Tristan Cherry could get unattainable. That's rough. We really do need Todd Goldstein to hold him to like 100 here, to be honest with you, if the break evens are sort of correct. Because, yeah, that 144 against Carlton and then a 158 here, he's got a massive potential to really just jump up in price. So, yeah, we really do need a holding score from in the Essendon game for the sake of getting in Tristan Cherry for under sort of 630k or so, because his back end run kind of gets a little bit ridiculous. So yeah, that kind of is annoying that he scored well in the last couple of weeks too, because he's going to become very, very hard to get to. Parker had an all right game in his 300. It's not the greatest. Sheasel came alive in the second half. Him behind the ball, 40 meters behind the ball, looks so much better than in front of the ball. Just being able to set the play up. So yeah, he had a much, much better second half. And I think the last quarter he had, or the second half in SuperCoach, he had 100 and something points. It might have been 100 flat. Because yeah, he just had a really good game and 60 odd in fantasy, I think, in the second half. Curtis Wardlaw, LDU, had a pretty good game actually, LDU. Caleb Daniel, North fans continue to say that he's a shocking gig, and it looks like it, but he's getting an all right score, although he's one that could actually potentially become a trade out just because he's not actually living up to the top of the line. If we actually look at it, if we go here, he was averaging before this game a 101, and now it's going to probably go down to like a 95 or so, which is teetering on top 6. So he's probably going to be the one forward that potentially could turn into a trade out, a luxury trade out. Zerha, Larky, McKercher just looks a bang average in that role that he's got. And then Finn O'Sullivan, a 4150, still just continuously can't get the scoring up to score really to get that cash gen flowing. So yeah, that was really annoying for those that have him. And then Tucker somehow played 69% game time for no touches, even though he had a kick in as well, I believe. But that's the North Melbourne versus Port Adelaide game. Then we get to the GWS versus Western Bulldogs game. Lockie Whitfield, when I saw that he was doing some practice kicks in the quarter time break and that he had an injury icon next to him, because I was watching partly the Manly game of the NRL, and I saw that and I went, damn, I'm going to have to look at that. He decided to actually play on through it, and it sounded like an ankle injury, and yeah, 30 touches, 11 marks for him. He is absolutely fine. A 104 you take with all the stuff that went on, especially because he had such a negative split in the first quarter for no real apparent reason from what I saw. So I didn't, must have been that he just was kicking more sideways and wasn't getting those sort of, for a +6 in fantasy, it was only worth like +3 or +4 in SuperCoach. Lockie Ash, a 113, 140. He has been one of the shining lights. And I wish if the early buy hadn't have happened, or if he was on a later early buy, probably would have stomached getting in a Lockie Ash. It just felt like you weren't really gaining much for him and never really looked at him. But he's definitely a guy that still is going to be underpriced at probably 980k in fantasy or so. And I don't know what his price in SuperCoach is, but he could be a guy just to look at. 544k with, that's going to be like, he's going to be like 570k. But yeah, he's just doing outstanding in that role. 93% disposal efficiency. Riccardi, Buckley, Callahan returning for owners that held him. He's done pretty well the last couple of weeks. Tom Green, 87, 84. Josh Kelly, Sam Taylor, Harvey Thomas, Hogan, Himmelberg. Connor Stone, really good first half on 56, and then 22-pointer in the second half, returning back to normal. But we finally get some cash gen relief from him with that 78. I believe he's going to go up a good solid 25k. If we just put this at a 78 here. He goes up 22k, and even with a 40 next week, he goes up 20k. But if he can muster something like a 55 and then a 50 the week after, if he can somehow do that, suddenly he's at 242k. And you can actually trade him out for value, and you've held him for 3 weeks just on the bench, and you've made another 60k. So that's why I think it was valuable, probably just to hold him with all the scoring he was doing. There was definitely upside from this scoring if you just look at that there. So yeah, all he had to do was one big game, and it looks like he's got that cash gen flowing again for him, as he had a pretty good game. Just limiting the turnovers. 3 clangers, and I don't think there was maybe 3 or 4 turnovers. So just a good game from him. Ware, Jones, Iden, Bedford, Green, Cameron McMullen, Briggs. Briggs, another disappointing display again. He's going to be so cheap next year. Like a potential option. I know that he would be, like, let's just look at this here. He's had an injury game plus a low game in general, plus and then a 55. So he's got through 6 games and gotten 377 points. That's an average of like 63. 377 divided by 6. That's an average of 62.8. If we look back at Kieran Briggs and his SuperCoach scoring, I mean, he's gone 2 good years. So this is an interesting one. Obviously, he's going to play through it and probably get towards that sort of 70, 75 average in the long run. But I just wonder if they do something here because, yeah, he's going to be a guy that's going to be ultra cheap next year. And definitely probably the R2 guy just because he'll be back to his best, I feel like. But, yeah, just a keen watch there, I would say, for the rest of the year. Jake Stringer should not be playing for them. And then we go over to Western Bulldogs and Team English, 124, 100, 23 disposals, 8 marks, 34 hit out, 4 free kicks, 1 goal. Yeah, he was outstanding. Surprised, to be honest, that he only got 100 SuperCoach points rather than going big there. Matt Kennedy, he was big as well. Libba, 94, 125. Ed Richards did well. James Harms had a really good game as a half forward as well, but not relevant. Joel Frazier, I don't know if anyone would have had him, but yeah, he returned pretty well, but just not going to be relevant. Marcus Bontempelli gave us probably that relief game, as he still is nursing himself back into it, even though he looks absolutely fine. He scored a 128, which is going to mean that he is going to be, let's just check this here. That 150 goes away. A 128 means that he's going to have a break even of probably somewhere around that 120 marker for Port Adelaide. And so he's probably going to go up in price initially, but you would expect him to potentially come back down in price a little bit somewhere in the long run. Hopefully, if he just scores some 120 scores, that he goes down in price just a little bit. In the long run, you can kind of see that there a little bit here. Even if we put this back to his rightful score of 128, you'll see it keeps on doing a scroll or something. 128 there, and then there we go there. So if he does average 120 flat, he does get down to in the buys around about 642, I think it is, at his buy round, and by the end of the season, he's in and around that sort of 615, 620k when you've probably got that final upgrade to do. So he's going to be hard to get to, which will be a luxury for those guys to actually get to him because he is doing outstanding well, but I feel like he's got a bad gain in him that will help us get to him. Bailey Dale, I just thought that when his efficiency wasn't there, he wasn't going to score well, he wasn't getting enough touches of the ball, seems to be right. Williams, Norton, West, Sanders as well. Sanders and Davidson can probably talk to them together. They're both gone for me in fantasy this week. They've held down my weekly score, and I will gladly get in another midfield rookie or something like that. I don't even know because there's no real midfield rookies, but grab up another Primo and shift some guys into the forward line to cover for them because that was a horrific display by them. Both, to be honest, but both sort of expected given the players back for the likes of the Western Bulldogs, probably, even though it sounded so counterintuitive. I just knew that this was going to happen for Sanders. A 130 into a 50 just felt like that was going to happen. And I think he even loses cash or barely goes up in fantasy. So yeah, time to move on from him. And then Buzzlinger, this is why you don't go early on rookies. 42. And I'm just going to show you why you don't go early on rookies. In 1 second here, let me grab up Buzzlinger here. If we go Buzzlinger, am I able to sort of just like, I wish I was able to just do this, but if we just go here and say Buzzlinger is going to go up by 15k. Now let's just jump over to Carroll, who's a little bit more expensive, but we need 15k. Let's just go here. Carroll needs to score a 13, I think it is. Is that right? A 13 to go up 14, 15k. Yeah, he needs a 14 to go up the same amount that Buzzlinger went up for a 42, which makes sense to a certain degree. So yeah, Carroll, if he goes 60, is going to outprice Buzzlinger by about 37k. So yeah, that's the reason why I did it. I was definitely worried when Buzzlinger was on 25 at quarter time or even before quarter time, but he started to just not get the ball as much and slow down. So yeah, it just shows that VFL scores do not translate anything directly to the AFL. And yeah, he just struggled a little bit. Cooper Hines and Josh Dolan are probably going to be guys cheaper really next year, minimum guys next year that could be valuable if they just are able to. One, there's going to be a lot of guys next year, I'm going to say this, that get out of the sub-vest that are going to be very, very valuable. If the sub-vest, one, if they just develop more, and two, if the sub-vest goes. Because if the sub-vest goes, you've got Hines, you've got, who else? Sheldrick, as well as some other guys there that are just going to be ultra value. Let's just look at for the sake of this, let's just look at Sheldrick scoring. Even though I think Sheldrick will not be at the Swans next year. But anyway, let's just look at him. He had an all right game today in the VFL, but I'm just using him as an example per se. But if we look at him, he's had 4 games here for a 40 fantasy point average. And if you actually, so he's going to be priced if we were to take this at the moment, like he isn't going to get back into the side, which he probably will eventually, but he would be priced at somewhere close to 0.82 times the 62.4. He'd be priced at 51, I believe, or so. And that would be priced at around the 500k mark again, which, and I mean, no, actually he would be priced at, because he'd be priced at 4 games at 40. So because he didn't play in 2024, he's actually going to be priced at 0.82 times 40, which is 32.8. So he'd be priced about 330 something K in fantasy next year if he doesn't get another game, just because he's sat in the vest pretty much every game or been injured. So I'm pretty sure he was subbed out in this game, and then he's been in the vest in every single game of the year. And you can see this most recent game that was against Ruby, 26 touches, and then he just played this morning against Gold Coast, 30 touches. So guys like this, Sheldrick, Hines, and other guys that have sat in the vest quite a lot could be valuable next year if they are like developing guys, that if they can get a spot in the side, but we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, that is the video there. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, Monday, for my team reviews for round 7 of the Fantasy and Supercoach season, alongside my the Sunday game review. So I'll see you guys in that video there. Bye, guys.